everybody, Rachel Ray here. In every class for our very first cooking camp together, we're gonna cook together, not just us, but a lot of my friends. You guys are gonna learn so many great techniques. You're gonna have so much fun, and at the end, you get to eat and share it with all the people you love. And you know what I love? Everything we're doing together is gonna benefit the Boys and Girls Club of America and a brand new scholarship project. So we're doing well for others while we're making great food and doing well for ourselves and the people that we love. Thank you to all of our sponsors for making this possible. Game on, let's turn up the heat.
Welcome to Rachel Ray's Yummo Cooking Camp. And now I would like to welcome our camp director, who would like to say a quick hello. Campers, how about a big round of banging wooden spoons on the counter for our camp director, Rachel Ray.
Andrew Zimmern. What can I say about this person? I take up his whole class. Campers, get ready, because this man is not only going to blow your taste buds, he's going to blow your mind. He's brilliant. He writes fantastic books, and he does great television shows. He's super smart, super cool, super good friend, super good dad, super good chef. AZ, take it away. I love you, my friend. Thank you for being our counselor today. Mwah!
Thank you so much for having me. I am thrilled to be the guest camp counselor today. It is my privilege. And welcome, campers. I'm so excited to be able to cook this with you. Randy talked about safety. I can tell you for parents with younger campers, mince the onion, grate the cheese, and I pretty much think that's all there is to it. I made this recipe with my son Noah since he was about 6 years old. He mostly liked pounding out the chicken breast, but it's absolutely a blast. Other than sliding the chicken into hot oil, which is for older campers, age 12 and above, this recipe is gonna be one that you are gonna love. You're gonna use it. You're gonna utilize it all the time because who doesn't love chicken parm? But even this, just the tomato sauce is simple, elegant, and perfect. I do want to whip through the ingredients really fast while we get cooking, but I want to tell you, I have pans warming up on the stove so that when I'm cooking my tomato sauce or frying my chicken cutlets or cooking my pasta, I'm already ready to go. So get some water boiling, get some pans preheating. That's really important. Second thing, that word about safety, 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 safety. I'm not sure I'm going to pick up a knife during this demo because I already have the onions minced for you. But if we have time later on, I'm going to show you how I mince an onion safely and how I taught my son to do it as well. So we have several components here. The first thing that we want to review is make sure that we have all the ingredients for our sauce, which is garlic and oregano, chili flakes, salt, basil, tomato paste and tomato puree or sauce, onions, some chicken stock, and some olive oil. All that's listed on your recipe. This is part of my dredging mixture. I've got oregano, basil, and chili flake to season my flour. I have eggs that are going to be the second dredging station for our chicken cutlets. And then I have grated Parmesan cheese to go in my breadcrumbs for our third dredging station. And I have my 2 cheeses. I was dying to ask camp director Randy if he could explain how cheese is made, because he started to go down that road and I was so excited to hear that. Ricotta cheese and mozzarella cheese and fresh basil, of course, to finish, because we want the top of this to be red, white, and green, the colors of the Italian flag. That's what it's all about, right? So I've got my water going. Oh, last little bit of business. Randy didn't make all the announcements. I have one. I want to thank all of our sponsor partners, because without them, this incredible summer camp project would not be able to give as much money to FIU, which is all about education, but it also means that this camp is free for so many young people that love cooking. And I'm all about culinary literacy and having fun in the kitchen and learning at the same time. So thank you to Shipped, to potsandpans.com, Barilla, Duncan Hines, Bird's Eye, Ready Whip, and Vlasic. Thank you so, so, so much. So, campers, are you guys all ready to cook?
Let's do it.
Good, good, good. All right. First thing that we're going to do, I have my water boiling. I'm not going to cook my pasta quite yet. The first thing I want to do is take my olive oil and pour it into the pan that I'm going to cook the pasta sauce in. I am then going to add my onions, and they are sizzling right away. I am then going to add my minced garlic right on top of the onions. I now am going to season it with oregano, a little bit of my sugar, my chili flakes, and then I'm going to take my wooden spoon and I'm going to give it 1 or 2 stirs. I have this on medium heat, and the reason I have it on medium heat is I don't want to burn my garlic or my oregano or my chili flakes. But in just that amount of time, my onions are nice and glassy. They're glassy. Oh, induction, better put that back before it yells at me. So I'm gonna add my chicken stock. Parents, when I'm making this at home in big batches, I'll usually use a little bit of white wine. There, it pulls out a lot of the flavors into the sauce. And now I'm gonna add my tomato paste. Now,
Building all the flavors there, right, Andrew?
excuse me?
Building all those flavors that are going to meld together.
That is correct. Then I'm gonna throw my basil sprigs in there. I throw them in whole because all the flavor is gonna come out of there into the sauce. And I should tell you, it's very important not to overcook your sauce in terms of time. And I'm talking about duration. The issue there is that the longer you cook your pasta sauce, the sweeter it's gonna get, but you also risk scorching it. I don't want a sauce that's overly sweet. I want one that's balanced. That the acid, the acidity in the tomatoes, that bright sort of puckery, I gotta take another bite of that tomato flavor is still there, as well as the sweetness, because it's the acidity in the tomato sauce that balances against the cheese and balances against the fried chicken. So all of our ingredients in the pan here are bubbling away. That addition of chicken stock, I can now smell everything in harmony. I can smell the basil, the oregano, I can even smell the chili flakes, right? So now I'm gonna add my tomato puree. And I don't need to cook that for very long. You know, depending on how wide your pan is, 20 minutes, 25 or 30 if it's a little stouter pan and taller, right? Because if I have, what's this pan here is 12 inches across, I get lots of evaporation. And essentially all we're trying to do is evaporate that half cup of chicken stock that went in there, not a lot of water in anything else. And once that's done, it takes about 15, 20 minutes on a low setting. Once that's done, our sauce is ready to go because we could literally serve this right now. It just doesn't have all of those flavors pulled together symphonically yet. Now, what do I mean by that? I know a lot of you out there listen to music. Some of you play musical instruments. If I serve this tomato sauce right now, it's like plucking an A string or on a guitar, or drawing an A on my violin, or blowing an A with a single finger on my trumpet, right? But if I've added the ingredients in the right order and I let it cook for long enough, we're going to create a symphony of instruments, 100 instruments all playing full chord. So instead of it being A, it's gonna be A, right? Because we're building those flavors like camp director Randy talked about, right? And to do that, we needed to cook a little more. We needed to cook long enough for the garlic to come out into the sauce, but not too much that the sauce gets too sweet. So it's kind of like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, right? One is too small, one is too big, but one is just right. This particular sauce is just right at about 20 minutes. So we're gonna let that cook away. Next thing that we wanna do, let's beat our eggs and get those eggs into one of our dredging trays. So I have a bowl here with my eggs in it. You have enough egg and breadcrumb and seasoned flour to do 4 chicken cutlets. However, I'm not gonna cook 4 chicken cutlets today because I only have a short amount of time with you. So I'm gonna do 1 or 2 in the pan that I have here. But I just mix those eggs up just like I'm doing scrambled eggs, and I pour it into one of these disposable aluminum trays. Why do I do that? Well, at home, I have trays that I use for a dredging station that I bought. If you do a lot of this type of cooking where you go flour, egg, breadcrumb, and I do, at least once a day, at least once a week, I'm doing something like that. Then what you're going to want to do is make sure that you have your own personal trays that you like to use for that. However, in a pinch, I keep stacks of these disposable trays, but they're also not really disposable. A quick rinse with salt and water, and you can use them 4, 5, 6 times, as long as you don't dent or crumple them up. So I'm going to add my flour into this one, and I'm going to season it with oregano, chili flakes, basil, a healthy amount of salt. You want to throw a little ground pepper, go right ahead. And then I'm going to take another whisk, not the same one that has all the egg on it, but I'm going to blend that with a whisk, shaking this back and forth to make sure that I get all of those seasonings dispersed in there. I don't want someone biting down onto a big clump of dried basil or dried chili flakes. That would be kind of crazy and nutso. Flour, egg, breadcrumb is the last one. So I have these breadcrumbs here. You can use conventional toasted breadcrumbs, homemade ones, panko breadcrumbs, whatever you have on hand. And what I season the breadcrumbs with is Parmesan cheese, grated Parmesan cheese, because we're going to have that salty Parmesan cheese crust on our chicken parm that's so, so, so crucial. The secret to my chicken parm is Parmesan cheese in the breadcrumbs and the thin layer of ricotta cheese that I put underneath the sauce and the cheese that adds a creamy texture to it that I just think is absolutely second to none. So we have here our breadcrumbs, our egg, and our flour. And so if you all grab your chicken, this is the real fun part. And I'm going to give you guys a minute to catch up here because I know we're going through a lot of stuff really fast. We have our tomato sauce simmering. That'll be ready in like 20 minutes. We have our water boiling back there to cook our pasta when we're ready. This pot right here, in case you're wondering, is just some sauce that I made ahead of time in case I needed to, because I'm teaching a class. I'm not cooking at home. So I want to make sure I have tomato sauce ready for you. So if you're all caught up, and I hope that you are, I'm going to show you how I deal with these chicken breasts. I'm going to slide my chicken breasts that have been on this sheet of plastic onto my cutting board. I'm going to take the skin off of this chicken breast. By the way, you can leave the skin on. Some people love that. I'm going to take it off on this one. You can use that for another purpose. I save my chicken skin, but you know me, I'm kind of crazy. I've got this second chicken breast that I'm just going to set to the side here on my paper towel. And I'm going to take a little bit of olive oil. Let me center this chicken breast a little more. The chicken breast should be in the center of your pan. I've got my little 2 tenders here, by the way. I'm just going to put a little bit of olive oil on top of there. Why am I putting olive oil onto the chicken breast if I'm going to pound it? Because it makes it slippery so that the chicken breast will actually pound out and spread in between the plastic sheets that I'm going to put it on. So my next sheet right here, if I wasn't such a butterfingers, I would be able to pick it up easier. I have a couple sheets here just in case I messed it up. I'm going to put my sheet down on top of my chicken. And then I have a mallet here. If you don't have a mallet to pound, you can safely use whatever your parents tell you that you can use. A dictionary, a very heavy pan, like this one right here. Lots of things can pound out your chicken breast. And all I do is I try to make a uniform shape sufficient to fill a plate. And I want it to be a uniform thickness at about 1/3 of an inch. I'm going to pound those 2 chicken tenders as well. And you can see then.
Kenny in Knoxville, Tennessee says he always makes holes in his plastic. What is he doing wrong?
You're hitting it too hard. I know it's fun, but it's not like trying to hit a baseball. You're not trying to get a home run. You just want to hit a single. Just gentle pounding to let the tool do its work. And sometimes, by the way, just because we're dealing with an imperfect world, right? Chicken has all kinds of different pieces. As many times as I've done this, I have this little like 1/4 ounce piece of chicken that fell off. I just put that to the side. It's no big deal. You're always going to have that. Some little piece of, there's already a nick in the chicken breast before you even start it. And then when you pound it, it just falls off. It's not a big deal. Flour, egg, and breadcrumb is the name of the game here. So I take my piece of chicken right here, flour, and I just turn it a couple times in there just to make sure it's nicely dredged. Egg, same thing. Couple of turns in there to make sure the whole thing is coated in egg and breadcrumb. And turn that a couple of times. When I get to this stage, the breadcrumb and parm stage, is when I push down to make sure that every bit of chicken gets breadcrumb adhered to it. And here I have that beautiful cutlet. I'm just going to lay it right there. I'm going to very quickly do these 2 little tenders.
Well, now that campers have seen this pounded chicken technique twice, they will be professionals. Rachel did it on our first camp day.
Ah!
So we
Fantastic. Our chicken is about to go into the hot oil. It's at that point generally at my house that I cook my pasta, because I am going to cook my pasta a second time in the sauce. I'll show you that when we get to it. But I usually use, this is a pound of dried pasta. We're doing this as a little side dish with our chicken parm. I like pasta with chicken parm, and I especially like angel hair pasta with chicken parm. It just eats really well with it. You can use any pasta that you want. Barilla sent us a whole world of pasta here, so I had my choice of any shape, and I like the angel hair. And I usually use about a 1/2 pound for 4 people. Just because you don't need a lot of carbs with this meal. It's a big, heavy meal. People are getting a nice big piece of chicken. If you're splitting chicken breasts, and especially if you're using trying to serve young kids, or if you're trying to stretch the chicken, just increase the amount to about a 1/4 pound of dried pasta per person. But I have a large volume of rapidly boiling salted water back here, and I'm just going to cook that probably for 3 or 4 minutes. I'm going to drain it. I have my pretend sink over here. I'm going to drain it in there in this giant bowl with my colander and toss it with just a tablespoon or so of olive oil. just so it doesn't stick together. Thin pastas like angel hair tend to stick together more so than any other type of pasta. And even though I'm reheating it in my sauce right before I serve it, I want to make sure that all of those beautiful noodles stand apart. So I have my temporary sink ready to go right there. And because I don't want to get things too confusing for you, Vicki, would you take these all away, these trays and all of this? Thank you very much. I don't want to start cooking my chicken because that's only going to take like, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes in total if you're doing one at a time. What I would like you to get, because it's kind of important, you can drain, you don't need to drain your pasta in a pretend sink. You have a real sink at home. My sink is over there. So I wash my hands there, but I don't want to go there too often. But I do want you to get a tray of some kind, a cookie sheet lined with some paper toweling so that we can build our chicken parms on there when it comes out of the oil. The other thing that I want you to do, once your pasta returns to a boil, the most important thing that you can do with pasta is give it one spin, one turn with a spoon once the water is returned to a boil. What that does is it prevents the pasta from sticking to the bottom of the pot, right? A quick check-in with our pasta sauce. That's been cooking almost for 20 minutes. And I want you to do something that most home cooks don't do enough of, which is taste their food. And what I'm tasting for is seasoning, salt, but also I want to make sure that this tomato sauce tastes good enough to go on pasta and to go on the chicken parm, right? So I want the balance of flavors and all of those components that we put in. I want to be able to taste them all. Smash that one out of the ballpark. It's a really solid recipe.
Andrew, speaking of ballparks, I got a question here that I'm going to take a swing at. Somebody asked, what does a healthy portion of pasta look like? And after studying a little bit, I know that this approximate size of a baseball is about a 2-ounce serving, and that's a nice healthy portion of pasta. So a little baseball metaphor there for you.
Correct. And you know me, a big sports fan and a big health fan. You don't want to load up on the carbs. Put as much salad with this, as much chicken with this as you want. And by the way, you don't need to do flour, egg, and breadcrumb every time. You could just grill or saute your chicken breast for this dish, although I think chicken parm is a great cheat to have it done in the oil. Can you guess, Camp Counselor Randy, what I'm going to do next?
You are going to do something with that spoon.
I'm going to taste my sauce again to make sure I seasoned it appropriately with salt.
And the jury says?
Now it's perfect, right? So, my angel hair only takes a couple minutes to cook. So I'm going to pour that into my pretend sink. Turn off the burner. And I have my pasta ready to go. Now, some recipes, in fact, most, I just did it last night. I made corn pasta last night with zucchini and onions and lots of pecorino romano. Some recipes, I save the pasta water. In this one, I don't need to because my sauce is already made. My sauce is already made. Could you just very carefully set that aside? I don't want anyone to get hurt. But all I want to do is put about a tablespoon of olive oil, and I'm doing this, you can do this over the sink, over the bowl, I'm just doing this over my garbage can. I'm just going to put a tablespoon or so of oil there, and I'm just going to toss that a couple times and set that on this towel so that when I'm ready to put my pasta onto the plate, it's at the ready. Now, our pasta is taken care of. I'm going to put our chicken cutlet into the pan that has oil heated to the right temperature. I've got it on about medium. It's about 365 degrees, which is fine. But once it goes in there, I actually turn the heat up. Can anyone guess why? Oh, Bobby in Chicago, you nailed it. Here's the deal. It's a friend of mine. Here's the deal. I just put a room temperature piece of chicken equal in volume to all the oil that's in that pan. So the minute I put the chicken in there, what happened? It dropped in temperature. It dropped the temperature of the oil, right? So if I want this to brown and to cook through, I need to raise that temperature up. So the moment that that cutlet goes in there, I turn the temperature up from medium to in between medium and high so that I have the thermal momentum cruising along. Then here's my two little babies. And the reason that I cook these up is that paired together, it makes a very nice portion. But I remember when my kid was little, I would take 2 chicken breasts, take the tenders off, pound out the 2 cutlets. My wife would have one, I would have the other, and my kid would eat the tenders because I would line those up and make them like little soldiers.
While you get ready to make your changes over there, I want to give a nice shout out to Amanda and Zachary K in Plantation. This is their 5th class, AZ. I think they may be getting ready to open up a restaurant or something.
They sound like professionals.
They are. By the time they get done with these 16 classes, they certainly will. Amanda and Zachary K, thank you so much for your support. Hope things are good in Plantation, Florida.
I saw the list of counselors that are teaching cooking classes here. It's really, really impressive. And I hope that all of you campers get a chance to take as many of these classes as possible, because there's nothing better than being able to cook with your friends and family. The greatest way that we can show love and respect for other people is to put a delicious plate of food in front of someone. It's how I've said the words, I love you, to more people than I can possibly count. Something really magical happens whenever we share food with one another. And so being able to cook it is a particular source of pride for me. So I'm really glad that you're here and learning how to do all this stuff. I'm just checking both sides of our chicken here, turning it as need be to promote even cooking. And I just want to show you here, that is getting nice and brown, but it's not quite the color brown I want. I just need another 60, 70 seconds in there. Please remember, the cooking instruction is browning. Nowhere does it ever say to beige something, right? We don't beige things, we brown them. Beijing, for those of you that love all things geographical, is the capital of China. Browning is a chicken term, right? A cooking term. But in this case, I guess also a chicken term.
That brings up a question, AZ. Somebody asked if they wanted to run this whole recipe with eggplant, could they just make that substitution and make it work?
I do the exact same thing with eggplant. The only thing you have to be careful about with eggplant is you gotta, if you're using Italian eggplant, which is the big globe eggplant, cut your slices about a ½ inch thick, salt them, and keep turning them on a paper toweling a couple times over the course of an hour, and gently press them out. Extract the water, number one, so it doesn't cause your breading to fall off, but also you don't want your eggplant spongy. So salting it helps both those things. If you're using Asian eggplant, which is my preference when I make eggplant parm, you don't have to, because it doesn't have the water content for it. Now, my chicken cutlet is beautiful, it's brown. I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit of salt on there, because it's important that we season our food at every single stage. Putting my salt back away. And now I can get out my tray and start building my dish. All right, so what do I want to do? You know what I'm going to do? This is lovely, but it's going to be hard for you guys to see. I'm going to dump my oil Always be careful and don't dump it down the sink. I'm just gonna wipe out this pan here. I'm gonna build my parms right in this pan that I fried the chicken in, just so you can see it a little better. So, first thing that I want to do, grab a spatula. Nice colorful one so you can see the ricotta cheese. And I'm guessing like a quarter cup for this whole breast. And all I'm doing is spackling it like I'm putting mortar between bricks or icing a cake. It doesn't have to be completely 100% even, but we don't want to waste food either. Just don't get into analysis paralysis like, oh my gosh, I have to make this absolutely perfect. No food is perfect, right? Then maybe a tablespoon on each of the smaller pieces. Which, by the way, if you have a very little kid, but who's eating solid food, is a beautiful portion, along with a nice green veg and our pasta. And I'm going to just lower the heat on our pasta since it's perfect. And all I'm going to do is, at this point, place our pieces of chicken into this pan. Because now my work with this board is done. And you can see here, I've got the chicken pieces spackled with that beautiful ricotta cheese. And you know, I have some extra parm here. So why not just sprinkle a little of that in there? Because you can never have enough cheese to season something. And then here's the real fun. This is our sauce that we made together that couldn't be more perfect. And I am just going to drizzle this to cover our pieces of chicken. Now you may ask, what about the extra sauce? I always have extra sauce with my chicken parm. Ratio is so important to me. I usually serve a little bowl of sauce, whatever's left over, on the table so people can spoon a little extra on there. But remember, we have our angel hair. So I'm actually going to slide my angel hair pasta and let that cook and warm up in the sauce. Because when we plate the pasta onto the plate with the chicken, we're gonna have an opportunity to add more sauce.
Hey, AZ, I got a question from
Yes.
Lizzie in Coral Gables wants to know, if she didn't want to fry the chicken, could she bake it? And if so, what temp and what time do you think that would be?
Brush it with olive oil, salt, and pepper. Put it on a sheet tray that has a lip to catch any juices, and cook it at 16, 17 minutes at 350 degrees, and you'll be fine.
Beautiful, thank you.
And all I'm doing now is I'm taking these little mozzarella pearls, which I happen to love because they make dots, and I just think it's pretty and fun. You can use grated mozzarella. You can use any kind of mozzarella that you have, shredded mozzarella. But this is real hand-pulled mozzarella that's cut into little pearls. It just melts better in my oven because the chicken's already cooked. So all I'm trying to do in a sense is warm this through and melt the cheese so it's nice and brown and bubbly. So I have this situation going on right here. You can slide that into an oven anywhere from 375 to 450. Keep an eye on it. I'm sliding mine today because of the way I pounded these and just because I get to make a choice into my broiler.
Now, AZ, with that, not all pans are created equal. That must be a special pan that can go into the oven.
Yes, it is. It is a beautiful, who sent this to us? The folks at Analon?
Potsandpans.com.
Correct, our sponsor. The great thing about these pans, and I don't buy pans that, let me rephrase that properly. I don't own a pan that doesn't go in the oven. I also try to buy pots and pans that can go into the oven and go to the table, which, and this is not, I'm not sponsored by them. But right before we went to air, I was talking with our culinary director at our hospitality company, and we both love how these feel, but also they look really great too. And you can bring this and just set that in the middle of the table, which I like because when I'm cooking for the family at home, that's just how stuff goes down in my house. Now, what you don't want to do whenever you put food in the broiler is walk away from it, right? Now, I know that the first minute, 90 seconds, I'm chill, I'm okay, but I don't want to burn the edges of my chicken or scorch my cheese. So I just want to go over here and peek that out, and I am absolutely fine there while that's broiling away. I'm going to turn my pasta in my sauce. I always reheat my pasta in my sauce. I'm going to get my basil, and right away, sorry campers, I lied to you earlier. First thing I said was I'm not going to use a knife. That's not true. I'm going to cut some chiffonade of basil, thin little strips. You can use whole basil leaves, whatever you like. I just happen to think that these wonderful little ribbons allow me to get more basil on more plates, also very aromatic. And I also have to select a plate to plate this on. So you go find a plate.
One quick note about pasta also, it's a great complex carb, gives you great energy. I'm a runner. I always try to have a big plate of pasta before my morning run. It digests more slowly than most carbohydrate-rich foods, and so it really helps feed your muscles as you're working out. So good, healthy portion of pasta with lean proteins and vegetables is one of my go-to healthy meals. So I love the fact that you're cooking that up there for us, AZ. It's just such a great part of a healthy diet.
Well, I will tell you, you talked before about volume and amount. There are people in my family who are very serious about their diet and about their athletics. And what I now do is it's like the pasta I made last night. I sauteed onions until they were brown. I added corn kernels cut from 3 ears of corn. I added 2.5 cups of diced zucchini. And I just sauteed it on a big skillet, right? A little bit of salt and pepper. And then I put a 1/2 pound of cooked pasta into it. So by weight and volume, the ratio of vegetables to noodles was about 4 to 1.
Mm.
We got all of our pasta that we wanted because by the time we divided the portion, we had that 2 ounces that you were talking about, that softball size. But we had a whole other softball plus of vegetables in there. And that ratio is really, really, really important, right? And it turns a pasta meal that some people would say, oh, that can't be healthy, into something super healthy for you. We had a little bit of butter in there, but not a lot, maybe 2 tablespoons for all of that. Then we had a little bit of vegetable stock in there to kind of pull it together. It was incredible, but really, really important way. Work more vegetables into your pasta dishes.
Love that messaging.
All right, now. Our chicken parm is nice and sizzly and bubbling. The cheese is melted. That means that my ricotta is hot enough. Everything in there is hot enough, right? So, next job. Take our chicken parm. And lay it on the plate. Now I'm going to take these little mini parms. Oh, look at all that gooey awesomeness.
Wow, Minneapolis never seemed so far from Miami.
Yeah. You know, we talk about this all the time. I mean, let's not lie to our campers. In real life, we're all friends. We've all known each other and worked together for many, many years. And you never invite me to your house to cook for you.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. Next
Really
time you
sad.
are in Miami, come on.
Really, it's really sad, Randy. Okay. So now we neaten these up a little bit, and I've got this beautiful angel hair pasta here, and we're just gonna twist this back and forth and make a nice little bundle there. I'm cooking for my friends and family. I'm not cooking in a restaurant where I would do something a little more ridiculous with it, but just nestle a little bit of pasta next to that. And then remember I told you before about that sauce thing? Just about a tablespoon of it on top of the pasta, because it just looks so good that way. And everybody wants more tomato sauce, more tomato sauce. There is a point where you have too much tomato sauce, but we have not reached that point yet. Not with this meal. And then just some basil on top of that. Whoop. Don't want that little bundle of pasta to get cheated. But there it is, super simple chicken parm, mommy and daddy portions, young kid portions. Although I gotta tell you, my almost 16-year-old literally ate me out of house and home the last week. I've never seen a child eat so much food in their lives. So for any teenage campers or parents of teenagers, this is a meal that will definitely fill them up and won't have them running to the refrigerator 2 hours later because they think that they're still hungry. You can feel very good about feeding your family this meal. Thank you, sponsors. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Lee Schrager. Thank you, FIU. We do have time for questions, but I just wanted to say it's such an honor to be a part of this thing. Thank you to Rachel for this incredible idea, this great way to pay it forward through food, through scholarships. And to all of you out there that are cooking something for the first time, that's the best way to learn. I don't learn anything when I get something right all the time. When I learn something is when I struggle, when I make a mistake. Mistakes are how we learn. Asking for help is a sign of strength, not of weakness. I think cooking teaches us all of that and makes those lessons really, really heartfelt. So thank you so much for the privilege of letting me spend some time with you. Randy, if we have time for questions, I would love to hear them.
Here are some questions, and I think at this point we've got most of our recipe questions asked. And Andrew, I think we're going to talk a little bit about a few career questions that some of our viewers are curious about. So I'll start off. Would you consider ever becoming an Iron Chef? And if so, who would you like to be your first battle?
Oh, what a great question. I was lucky enough to judge, gosh, maybe 10, 12, 14 episodes of Iron Chef. And about midway through my Iron Chef judging career, because I also was making TV at the same time for another network. And they were kind enough everyone was kind enough to allow me to judge. Famously, I think in one of the first doubles competitions, maybe it was the first doubles competition, Iron Chefs Morimoto and Bobby Flay were allowed to select a friend to come cook with them in a doubles match. So Bobby selected Chef Marcela Valladolid, and Morimoto selected me. And it just re-aired the other night because I got a whole bunch of questions about it. And it was Battle Whistling Salmon. And it was one of the most fun days that I've ever had. And it doesn't matter win or lose, competing is just such an incredible honor. I am more of a traveler, social commentator, educator. I have culinary chops, but I have to tell you, to attain Iron Chef status means not only do you have to have culinary chops, but you also have to have a subspecialty in competition cooking. That is a whole different ballgame. And I don't pretend to be any good at that at all. However, if I did become an Iron Chef, I think the first person that I would want to cook off against, I'd want to go sort of like right to the top. So I'm guessing that I would probably want, I have so much respect for the crop of first American Iron Chefs, and so much respect for the food that Michael Simon does. I'd want to go right through Michael Morimoto, Bobby, all of those guys, Kat Cora, Alex Guarnaschelli, Forgione, I worked for his dad. That's how old I am. I want to take it easy on the kid and let him go last.
That's great. I love that. Next question is, actually, here's one you probably get a lot. You travel a lot for a living. Do you have a favorite country or region that you like to return to?
Yeah, it's always where I just left. And I know that sounds like an easy answer, but I'm a bright, shiny objects person. So when I'm in a country, I went to Cyprus, right? I almost bought a house there. I wanted to come back, and I only wanted to go to Cyprus. Is just such a mind-boggling, beautiful country with incredible culture. And despite the political and turmoil that's over there, the people have just open up their hearts and their homes to you. And the food is so, I mean, Turkish, Greek, Cypriot, Mediterranean flavors, Black Sea flavors, Central European, African, all Middle Eastern, it all comes together on this tiny little island. So I was just so in love with that place. And then 2 weeks later, I'm in Senegal, and I have the exact same feeling. It just happens to be over and over and over again. You can't sort of pick a favorite. I've been to 176 countries now, and counting. And I don't count layovers. Actually, I have to sleep there and see something before I count it. At the point that I'm at, it's really more regional. Southern Africa, Namibia, Botswana, South Africa, even as far northwest up into Angola, is really an incredible, incredible part of the world. The people are magical. The birthplace of humanity is in Botswana. Anthropologists have isolated what they believe is the first watering hole that human beings actually tribally collected around, the modern day hominid, and then walked out of the Aha Hills in Botswana north, seeking animals with more fat on their bodies so that we could grow our brains. It is a magical, magical part of the world. And I think Africa is the birthplace of humanity. Africa as a cultural region, a continent with so many different cultures. When you just pick any country, then you think of all the indigenous and tribal groups that are there. It's so varied, it's so rich. I'm not sure any place on earth competes with it.
I got to tell you, that passion comes through you so easily. You are an encyclopedia of travel. And it's great to hear those stories through you. Listen, that's why I love all of your programming. I learned so much from it. Two other real quick questions, and then we're going to let you go. Here you go. Do you listen to music while you cook? And if you do, what type of music do you typically go to?
I listen to music all the time when I cook. I put it up on Spotify a bunch of years ago. I think it's still there if you go on Spotify and just look up Andrew Zimmern. It's road trip music, but it's also my kitchen playlist. I listen to everything. I have a 16-year-old who keeps me up on everything that both, DaBaby and Lil Baby are recording. But I also grew up during the classic rock era. So, The Dead, Led Zeppelin, The Who, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, the second British invasion, the glam invasion, the big Brian Eno, Roxy Music era guy and I grew up in New York. So I was around when, the Talking Heads and, Blondie and the Ramones and all those groups were playing out in New York City. So I listen to a ton of stuff. When I'm cooking, I try to listen to music that doesn't have lyrics. So classical music, jazz, stuff like that, because I find myself singing along and I actually get distracted from the lyrics. I'm talking about seriously cooking, right? Either in a restaurant environment or if I'm doing a big spread, Thanksgiving meal, stuff like that. If I'm just making dinner for a couple people at my house, I'll throw on anything that gets me up and going, from the Black Keys to the Who's Quadrophenia. I want to get energized.
Well, when you do come to my house, I'm going to drop a little Jethro Tull. I have a feeling.
Dude.
Thick as a brick would give you a lot of energy.
No, are you kidding me? Tull is heavy rotation on my playlist. I also have, while maybe not appropriate for camp talk, later on when we have our counselors meeting, Randy, remind me to tell you my Jethro Tull story because you will laugh.
I will love that. And here's the final question, probably submitted by somebody in your state, because they're asking, have you ever considered running for the governor of Minnesota?
I have been asked for years if I'm ever going to run for public office. Most notably, I guess it was 6 years ago, to a CBS reporter confirmed that, yes, I do believe in serving once my career and usefulness in this space is done. I don't think that's happening anytime soon. I can get a lot done just here from my kitchen as an influencer. And I'm very involved in a lot of organizations and trying to do a lot, as you said, to make the world a better place. But when all that is done and I can't do anything else, whether it's city council or, something very small and humble where I can just contribute, is what I want to do. All politics are local, and I believe in growing where you're planted. The DFL here in Minnesota knows where I am. We have a great governor right now in Tim Walz, and I absolutely adore him and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan. They have a great administration. But who knows, years from now, if called upon, would I serve? Of course I would. Do I think I could take the 6 months of scrutiny leading up to it? I don't know. That's something that everyone has to consider. And you have to balance out your usefulness in the public sector versus the private sector. But I think everybody knows, certainly everyone who follows me on Twitter knows that I'm very political.
Without a doubt. Well, listen, I'm a guy that's going to go door to door for you when you make that official announcement. And again, AZ, I love you. We all love you. Thank you so much for dropping.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Randy. Thank you to everyone and all the teams that made this possible. Thank you, campers. Thank you, sponsors. Hopefully we do this again soon.
Thank you, campers. See you tomorrow.